The fighting nerds have fallen, and Diego Lopes put the final nail in the coffin. Diego Lopes flatlined Jean Silva in the main event of UFC, Noche UFC, whatever it's called, finishing the fighting nerds, hype train, and derailment or whatever. Incredible main event at Noche UFC, which turned out to be a really good card, but I was concentrated on really Canelo Crawford more, so I didn't really get to watch most of it. So I'm gonna be talking about just the main event today, because it was a barn burner. Holy crap, was it fun or what? If you're not familiar or you're new, Fighting Nerds is a gym out of Brazil. They have fighters like Cal Baralho, Carlos Prates, Marquinhos Rufi, Bruno Brazil, Jean Silva, and this weekend, Jean Silva. There's plenty of other fighters there, but that's the main ones in the UFC. And they come into the UFC, Oh, I forgot Michel Lolesic. How could I forget my dog? But anyways, they came into the UFC like just hot out of the gate, undefeated, just running through everyone. And you start to see like Bruno Brazil takes a couple losses, and then Carlos Prates fights Ian Machado-Garry. He loses that fight pretty convincingly. And then we had last week where Cal Baralho loses to Nassourdine Imavov, and Marquinhos Rufi utterly exposed by Benoit Saint-Denis. So this weekend was kind of their last hope. You had Jean Silva, their prodigal son, the only undefeated fighter in the UFC, there for them against Diego Lopes, a former title challenger. This was supposed to be a #1 contender making of Jean Silva going into this fight. Instead, Jean Silva got destroyed. I mean, and it wasn't the fact that like he was destroyed as in, oh, this was like a one-sided fight. No, Jean Silva had his moments, but Diego Ferreira is just, everybody must have forgot after the Alexander Volkanovski fight, because it seems like everyone just counted him out in this fight. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm looking at all of his experience, his high-level fights that he's had, and Jean Silva's been relatively untested. I thought this fight maybe would have gone to deeper rounds. Didn't get there. Into the second rounds where it was finished. But I didn't really want to count out Diego Lopes yet. And lo and behold, I was right. So like at the beginning, real funny moment actually. Jean Silva's like, hey, let's glove touch. Jean Silva, like in the middle of the fight, he's like throwing combos, hitting people. It's like, yeah, let's touch the gloves, let's do this and that. And Diego Lopes looks at him like, one glove touch, dude. One glove touch. So come out. Jean Silva presents and glove touch. But early on, Diego Lopes got started with the low kicks. That's going to be his longest weapon. And it served him well early on until Jean Silva really started to come up the middle with strikes. So you saw him throw that teep right up the middle, caught Diego Lopes in the throat. He was kind of messing with his throat during the fight after he got caught. I think that was the end of the first round. But Diego Lopes kept the kicks, kept the distance early, was trying to really kind of slow down the forward pressure and momentum of Jean Silva, and that's probably a good game plan for it. But Jean Silva, he's such a good striker. He's so dynamic. He has all these tools in this tool bag, but it was clear that Diego Lopes was waiting on him to turn his back to spin. And sure enough, Diego Lopes sees Jean Silva spinning on a spinning kick and just kind of grabs the back, boom, puts him on the mat. Kind of, you think back to like Valentina Shevchenko. Was it a spinning kick or a spinning back fist? The one where she got submitted and Alexa Grasso grabs her, just kind of like, hey, you turned your back, now I got you, and then sinks in the rear naked choke like that. I really felt like Jean Silva was kind of helpless on his back, and he did manage to get up, but that was largely because of Diego Lopes getting himself out of position. But once Diego Lopes got to mount, Jean Silva really was kind of just eating shots. And all credit to Diego Lopes, he managed to keep his knees high, right under the armpits of Jean Silva, and right where you want him to be, where he can't really buck and hit and get you out quite as easily. And he started throwing these nasty, just 12-6 elbows, which is beautiful that we have them now. And he, like the very first one he throws, gashes Jean Silva on the head, right up top, and he starts bleeding pretty bad. And there'd be plenty of more blood to come, but this time was just like, oh man, he really cut him open. He starts just pounding him out, and there's moments where he's just boom, 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 look like a rock'em sock'em robot just punching down. It's crazy. It was. I thought, Diego Lopes did a good job of really making Jean Silva pay for making that mistake. Oh, you gave me the back body lock. I put you on the ground. I beat you up for it. That's your fault. The early takedown gave him 2 minutes of control time, or not quite 2 minutes, a minute and a half maybe of control time. Maybe it might have been 2 minutes, but regardless, gave him a bunch of control time, won him the round. Did a lot of damage, out wrestled Jean Silva, which was weird because I think Jean Silva just tried to manufacture beef before this fight because Diego Lopes went train at Oklahoma State. They have Wyatt Henderson and David Taylor's the coach. Why would you not want to go there and learn how to wrestle from Oklahoma State, one of the best wrestling teams in the country? Jean Silva, got mad about that. Jean Silva kind of took credence against Diego Lopes for this. Kind of hey, you think you're going to go to Oklahoma State and out wrestle me? What are you talking about, man? He just wants to go and learn to wrestle. Maybe he likes to go into different gyms. And that was kind of where the beef kind of started. Then he was I'll give him his whole purse if he knocks me out. Dude, chill, man. He's just trying to be a fighter and have fun. And Diego Lopes is kind of thrown off by this because it was a bit weird, man. He really kind of, manufactured a beef that wasn't there. Now, Diego Lopes, he kind of handled it well, except for the fact that he went and flipped off the whole Fighting Nerds team after he won, which was kind of a sore winner moment. But, Jean Silva, I get kind of why he was angry with the shots to the back of the head at the end. That kind of, that made Jean Silva try and punch Diego Lopes in the back of the head. They kissed and made up afterwards when their arms were getting raised, when the adrenaline was gone. But there was a really good moment where, when Jean Silva did get a chance to scramble, he did well. And Diego Lopes, you could see his time at Oklahoma State. He's been putting a lot of work into the wrestling. You can see that because his mat returns were fantastic. He managed to get Jean Silva back to the mat, and when Silva was scrambling, he managed to find his next position where Jean Silva was going and say, all right, now we're going back to the mat here. There was a couple mat returns. It was mwah, chef's kiss for the wrestling fan. There was the crossface, pinning of the arm, all good stuff of him controlling, kind of peeling off the arm of Jean Silva as he was trying to turn him over into mount, or from the back to mount. I thought, all in all, the wrestling looked great. The ground and pound was vicious. The 12-6 elbows, as I mentioned, really gashed his head. And that was just the first round. The second round was a great comeback by Jean Silva. Now, don't get me wrong. Jean Silva managed to really go in and after, I think he got poked in the eye, was it? Yeah, he got poked in the eye. He really kind of lit a fire under him, and he started to bring the pressure to Diego Lopes. And you saw his striking on full display, grabbing the gloves and the outstretched jab of Diego Lopes. He grabs it, pulls it in, and throws the elbow. He'll throw an elbow with his lead elbow and then come with a body kick. A whole bunch of crazy stuff. Tomahawk elbows. It was really fantastic, the striking you would see. The whole Ilia Topuria lead to the body right up top, or Jean Silva switch, so he'll do both of them. But he was really landing clean on Diego Lopes, really clean. I was bro, he is teeing off on Lopes, and Lopes is he's stumbling, but that's more because Jean Silva is catching him out of position. I was more impressed with the fact that, Jean Silva's striking was magnificent, first of all, but second, Lopes just ate it. And again, I mentioned, he threw a bunch of uppercuts and stuff because Diego Lopes doesn't move his head. It's going to be right there, and he keeps that high guard. So, right here, all this space up the middle, that is, perfect for, teeps, uppercuts, all kinds of punches up the middle like that. And Jean Silva planned on it. You could tell that they looked at what they were doing or what Diego Lopes does and really game plan for that. The teep was very dangerous in this fight for him. But again, I don't know what the chin of Lopes is made of, because he ate some tough shots. And the finish, obviously, from Diego Lopes, end of round 2, 20-30 seconds left. Jean Silva really is he's had Diego Lopes on his back foot the entire time. He managed to get him against the fence and kind of corralling him out. And he just kind of got a little too greedy looking for big shots. And he overextends and overcrowds him too much with his hands down. And Diego Lopes says, whoop, spinning back elbow. Glances him off the head and just instantly, like, he goes to the ground, and you see Diego Lopes kind of go to a headlock position. I think he didn't really try and get the headlock, but his knee went under the head where he caught him, and instantly, like, his knee was just slathered in blood. It was so much, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a bloodbath. And he was just spewing blood everywhere. It looked like a stuck pig. It was terrible. And Diego Lopes, you know, he's trying to finish, and Jean Silva's covering up. Eventually, the ref calls it off, and again, that bad blood. But yeah, I can't blame him for kind of being mad, but also, like, don't throw a punch at him when his back is turned. Like, that's cowardly. And I'm sure Jean Silva would bark at me for saying that, but, like, man, this is a sport. You know, I get your life is on the line, but also his is, and he was trying to do his job and finish. You know, there was bad blood there, so a little bit of, you know, rah at the end. I get, whatever. You know, that is what it is. Who's next for Diego Lopes? That's the real big question. I don't see a shot against Alexander Volkanovski. There's too many people in line. You can make an argument better for Lerone Murphy and obviously Movsar Evloev. So it kind of depends on, like, how that shakes out with Alexander Volkanovski. Diego Lopes already lost to Volkanovski, really convincingly too. But if it's Movsar Evloev, that opens up his options even more. Evloev, like, deserves it more than anybody. Undefeated in the UFC, has a win over Aljamain Sterling. You know, he just kind of deserves what he's supposed to be giving, but he's had some issues. He was supposed to fight Aaron Pico on the fight where Lerone Murphy knocked him out. That was supposed to be Evloev, and Lerone Murphy had to step in on short notice because he had some personal issues. Pico didn't say what, and it sounded pretty bad, but hopefully, you know, he can get back into a fighting mode and claim his shot at the title, because that's the fight that's right. But Aljamain Sterling made a call out after it, and that makes the most sense. Sterling is coming off of his win over... Who Sterling beat last? I don't remember who it was. Oh, Brian Ortega. Really boring-ish fight. But he fought right. So, you know, that's kind of the fight. You've got Diego Lopes, who doesn't deserve a title shot yet because he just lost to Volkanovski convincingly. But also, like, Sterling is, you know, making a case for his title. You can't put him above, like, a Lerone Murphy, really, or definitely not a Movsar Evloev. Movsar beat him. But you could conceivably say, like, you know, you could conceivably say that if Aljamain Sterling were to beat Diego Lopes, like, that's the fight to make. You know, what, depending on how long he wants to be out, Volkanovski, that is. So I like that Sterling made the call out. I do dig that. Lerone Murphy is another good pick for him. You want to see what Lerone Murphy's made of. He's really kind of beat some good fighters, but nothing like crazy. You know, he battered Edson Barboza up. He just beat Aaron Pico, who wasn't really ranked, but we know he's a really good fighter. Let's see him fight a Yair Rodriguez or a, you know, Diego Lopes. If Lerone Murphy can beat Diego Lopes, who's going to bring a wild fight, he would more than deserve a title shot, even more so than Evloev at this point. And then obviously Yair's another one. They got beef back and forth. So if you want some violence, good 5-round co-main event or a main event for a fight night card in Los Angeles or somewhere, you know, next year. If they want to go out that way, you know, that's the move, man. You can have that fight be a really good banger because Yair still got it and everything. I think that's the way to go. Anyways, if you made it this far, guys, thanks. I appreciate you all sticking around and, you know, hearing what's what. Subscribe, like, the whole 9 yards. Y'all know the deal. In the description, Substack, if you want to sign up for the premium membership or just put your email in to get these directly to your inbox, you know, let me know, and we can you know, click that link, put your email in, and do that. Fight Finders 8 and 9 I'm filming this weekend, or maybe 9, I don't know. I'm filming this weekend though. Fight Finders 8, we're doing beach wrestling, which is going to be super fun. I might go in there and get a round in with somebody, and definitely not competing because I'm not a wrestler, but I might do that and see what beach wrestling is all about. First to touch the ground loses, so check out that playlist right here. Fight Finders 8 on your way, should be here next week. As for that, later.